I'd like to talk to you about how to find coordinates on a map. And coordinates are simply finding a point where two lines meet. So if you've actually played the game Battleship, you already have somewhat of an understanding of how this concept works. So when we're finding it on a map, and in this case a world map, we are going to have two different starting points. So if you follow these steps, you should be fine with finding any coordinates. So the first place I always suggest students to start from would be the equator. I've moved the ruler here right on the equator. How do I know it's the equator besides the fact that it actually says it right along this line? And also on the sides of the map, you would see a 0 line or 0 degrees right here. It's also on the other side too, the 0 degree line. And that would be your starting point. Now the equator is one of the lines of latitude, so it goes from east to west, it goes sideways or horizontal. And it is the 0 degree line, which makes it the starting point. So therefore, what you're going to do is, if you're looking for a certain place, you will either go up, which we know is north, or you will be going down from it, which we know is south. The second starting point would be the 0 degree line of longitude. And that one, once again, is in the middle on this map. Now, it doesn't say what it's called here, but this is called the prime meridian. And how do I know which one it is? Well, if you look at the top numbers, there's a 0 at the top. There's also a 0 at the bottom. So those are your two starting points. And for prime meridian, you are either going to move to the right of it, which is east, or you're going to move to the left, which is west. So that's pretty much all you have to know as far as starting points and to make sure you know which numbers to use. When we're starting at the equator, we're always going to use the numbers on the sides. And if we're starting from the prime meridian to find east or west, we're going to use the numbers at the top or the numbers at the bottom. So let's actually take a look at a question here. If I wanted to find, let's just look here, 48 degrees north and 70 degrees east. Well, let's start with the 48 degrees north, and we're looking for a country here. So starting point would be the equator. So I just put my ruler there, and I'm going to use the numbers on the sides. So in this case, I'm going to look on the right side here. Not sure how well, maybe I could zoom in a little bit. Maybe you can see that a little more clearly. Okay. So on the sides here, we have, it goes up by 15s. There's 15, 30, 45. We're looking for 48. So because this is the 45 line, it's a little bit above. These go up by 15s. So the next one's 60. 48 would obviously be a lot closer to the 45 than to the 60. So it's just a little bit above. We go to the 45. We went up, by the way, because we were supposed to go north. Okay? And north is always up from the equator. So now I just leave my ruler here in this spot. I don't move it. The second coordinate there is 70 degrees east. So, keeping my ruler there, we know it's east of the prime meridian. So this was our second starting point. It's the 0 degree line of longitude. So I'm going to use the numbers at the top. We're looking for 70. Once again, this goes by 15. So 15, 30, 45, 60. 75 would be too far. So we know it's between 60 and 75. We're looking for 70, and 70 is 2/3 of the way. If we counted by fives, we'd go 65, 70, 75. So it is about 2/3 of the way here between. So it's at this point here, this close to the 75. So I would just take my pencil and move and say 2/3 of the way here. So you can see, since I'm looking for a country, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more. And that country is Kazakhstan. So that's the one I would write down there if I'm looking for a country. And on the maps that you can work from here, like this one, one thing I'd like to point out is if you're looking for countries, all of the countries have capital letters in them, as you can see, which you're not to mistake with the cities. The cities start with a capital letter, but the rest of the letters in the name are lowercase, and you'd always be looking for a dot with them. Okay? So that's an example of how to find a country. So let's actually look at a city here. So this one says 30 degrees north, 96 degrees west. So we'll do that one. And it says to locate the city here, which is not the same as the first question we did where we were trying to find the country. So now we're going to look for a dot. So let's start with 30 degrees north. So once again, our starting point is the equator. So we put our ruler on the equator and we go 30 using the numbers on the sides. So what's really nice about this is 30 is right on the line. So that one's pretty simple. So it's going to be somewhere along the 30 line. And what was the next one? It was 96 degrees west. So I'm going to keep the ruler there on the 30 degree line. And then go 96 degrees west. So using the numbers on the top from the prime meridian, we're going this way. Got 75, 90, and 105. So it's somewhere in between, pretty close to the middle. Maybe slightly closer to the 90, okay, because we're looking for 96. So I'm just going to follow between these two lines until I hit my ruler. Oops, I'm on the 30 there. Good. And once again, just come down here. So I've hit a dot right here. There is a dot. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see it better. And I ended up right on this dot here, which you can see the city right next to it is Houston. Remember, we're looking for cities. Cities on this map just don't have all capitals, just the first letter, and you're always looking for a dot for a city. So that would be the answer for that one. Now, the most difficult questions are when you need to be able to come up with the actual numbers if they give you the city itself. So let's actually take a look at one of those examples. It says to find, let's find the city of Tokyo, Japan. So Tokyo, you know, is in Asia. So if we look on here, we will find Tokyo right here. So what you're going to do is once again use the starting point of the equator. And the equator, as we know, is here on the 0 degree line of latitude. And we just count our way up. So we got 15, 30, using the numbers on the side. And Tokyo, right here, looking for the dot, is about 1/3 of the way up. If you broke this into 3 sections here, it looks about 1/3 of the way. So then we have to determine what is 1/3 of the way from 30 to 45. Well, if we counted by 5s, and we said 35, 40, 45, that would about fit. So in this case, very close to 35, so that's what we're going to go with for this one. And what we'll do is we'll write down 35 degrees, and we went up from the equator, so then we put a capital N and then a comma. So that's our first point. Now, our second one is how far it is away from the prime meridian. That's the 0 degree line of longitude. So we're going to work our way using the numbers at the top, and we'll go straight up from Tokyo here, which really, if you look at where the dot is for Tokyo, it is, once again, about a third of the way between this line and this line. So you can see it's closer to this line right here. So about a third of the way between the lines. So what we do is we follow it around to the top, and it's between the 135 and the 150 mark. So about a third of the way in between there would be somewhere around 100 and, maybe 138, 139, 140, something like that. So what we'll do is we'll write down 139 degrees. And what direction did we go from the prime meridian? We went to the right, which is east. So we put a capital E there. And don't be too anxious about getting it bang on. It's really difficult on a map this size to get it exactly to the degree. So what I'd be looking for is that you could get close, but you don't have to be perfectly precise. So if you're within 3 degrees, it's a totally acceptable answer for this. So there are our coordinates for Tokyo. So for this one, if you ended up getting 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, those would all be acceptable answers. And the same with this one. If you got anywhere from 136 to 142, it would be considered acceptable. So that's basically it for how you find coordinates on a world map. What you can do is work on a couple of sheets that you have in your social studies duotang. One looks like this. Zoom out a little bit. And so you can work through these questions. And the second sheet looks like this. And basically, I would say work through them until you can get, maybe 5 in a row without any mistakes. Because once you've hit that point, you definitely have shown some proficiency, some good understanding of this concept.